بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of al-Qur'an by the late Ayat Misbah. And as you remember, we said for free will we need power, we need knowledge, and we need to have desire for doing this side or that side. If there is no power, you cannot do anything. If there is no knowledge, you cannot do. And if there is no desire, also you cannot do. So in this session, we will talk about different desires and inclinations in human beings. And Ayat Misbah starts with saying that knowledge and power are both conditions for ikhtiyar and for taklif, for free will and for obligation. You know, in usul al-fiqh, we talk about shurut al-taklif, conditions for taklif. Some of these conditions are general, some can be specific for different, for example, acts of worship. Those which are general, we call them shurut ammeh. For example, power is a general condition. If there is no power, then you would not be asked to do anything. Or if there is no knowledge, qubhul iqab bila bayan, which is bara'at aqli, and also the references that we have for bara'at shari say that without knowledge, Allah is not going to make any obligation. Aql is also one of the general conditions. If someone has no aql, fasting, salat, etc., don't become wajib. So these are shurut ammiyya taklif. But for example, istita'a is a specific condition for Hajj. Without istita'a, Hajj doesn't become wajib. And you remember, we also had shurut al-wajib. This is shurut al-wujub or shurut al-taklif. We have also shurut al-wajib, that's different. Shurut al-wajib, like for example, wuzu or salat. Without wuzu, you cannot bring wajib, which is salat. But if you don't have wuzu, you cannot say, okay, I don't have shart of taklif, so there is no wujub. Yeah? It's not like istita'a. You don't need to make yourself mustati. Istita'a is shartul wujub. But wuzu is not shartul wujub, it's shartul wajib. Alhamdulillah, because you have studied al-usul, you know these things. And these are very good ways of also making your mind, very organized and, being able to distinguish between different possibilities. So, power, knowledge are both conditions for ikhtiyar and for taklif. What about desires, inclinations? Ayatollah Misbah says desires are also conditions for taklif and ikhtiyar. But normally they don't mention it. They don't mention this point that the desires are conditions for taklif. Why? Because they are there. Because we have desires, so they don't mention it as shart taklif, they just mention as shart ikhtiyar. Otherwise, desires also are there to make us able to have any taklif, because without desire, you cannot make any choice. So he says this is shart takwini for ikhtiyar, but legally they don't consider it as a condition, although it's important and necessary. Just because it is there, they take it for granted. خب. Then Ayat Misbah refers to a point that this is discussed in philosophy and in usul al-fiqh about what is irada. Irada meaning will, when you make decision to do something. Some ulama say, it's very famous, they say irada is shawq mu'akkad. They say, for example, you think of going somewhere. First is tasawwur. Then there is tasdiq. You say this is good thing. Shawq is created. Then shawq becomes stronger and stronger, becomes shawq mu'akkad, and shawq mu'akkad means that then you decide to do something. Either shawq mu'akkad is irada, or shawq mu'akkad leads to irada. You decide to do something and then you move your muscles and walk. So philosophers and then scholars of usul al-fiqh many times have said that irada is shawq mu'akkad, or shawq mu'akkad is a necessity, a condition for having irada. Ayat Misbah says, we don't want to discuss whether this is right or not here, but in any case it's very clear that shawq and irada are related. Shawq is a matter of desire, and irada is related to shawq. You cannot deny this. Maybe shawq, when it is strong, is mu'akkad, is irada. Maybe shawq mu'akkad leads to irada, but anyway, it's related. Some scholars have said we have problem with saying that irada is shawq mu'akkad, because sometimes we do things which we don't like at all. We don't have any desire, but we do it because we think this is necessary. For example, maybe someone is in a condition that his foot has to be cut off. This person certainly doesn't want this, doesn't desire this, but still he accepts and even asks the doctor, the surgeon, please cut off my foot, which is, I don't know, damaged or, infectious, etc. So they say here there is no shawq, there is no desire, but still we do it. So irada doesn't need always shawq. But the answer is, what do you mean by shawq? Shawq can be haywani, something that animals also would like. Shawq can be nafsani, your nafs wants. But shawq can also be aqlani, intellectual. When we know something is necessary for our health, but it is painful, we don't have animal or, even psychic or psychological, shawq and eagerness here. But our aql says we should do it, and aql has shawq. Aql wants this to happen. So you cannot say, I have no shawq at all here. It's impossible to do something which you don't have any desire for doing it. At least one type of desire must be there. Now, like what we did before when we classified different types of knowledge, different types of power, let us classify different types of desires. Ayatollah Misbah rahmatullah alayh was one of our contemporary philosophers and scholars that he had studied a lot also humanities, psychology, sociology, education from Western perspective as well. He had studied a lot, and therefore he was a key figure in developing Islamic human sciences shortly after the victory of Islamic Revolution. They started with a group of Hausa teachers and university teachers when the universities were closed for some time for Enqilab Farhangi. They called it Cultural Revolution. And the idea was to review the curriculum, the textbooks, etc. And also because there were some, communist groups, etc., that were trying to be in control of universities. Anyway, there was a period of universities being closed and working on different things. So a group of Hausa scholars and university professors, they were working together under the supervision of Ayat Misbah, and that led to پژوهشگاه حوزه و دانشگاه, which is in Qom, and many textbooks about foundations, or what you call kulliyat of Rawanshanasi in Islam, or sociology in Islam. These things were compiled. Lots of work took place. And in Imam Khomeini Institute, before that Baghr al-Ulum Foundation, then Imam Khomeini University, all these subjects have departments: Department of Psychology, Department of Sociology, Department of Education, Department of History, Department of Political Sciences. All are there, and they study whatever is taught in universities plus Islamic perspective. So he was very familiar with psychology. This discussion is partly philosophical, it's partly psychological, partly related to even ilm usul al-fiqh. So different sciences need to be consulted. He says, as far as we know, there is no inclusive search and then list of all different types of human desires and inclinations. But one way, which is famous, or one of the famous ways in psychology, is to say that human internal desires or inclinations are four types. Amyal batini, the inner desires, are four. First, ghara'iz. Second, awatif. Third, infi'alat. Four, ihsasat. We will explain all of them one by one. Ghara'iz means instincts. This is used to refer to those inclinations or desires which relate normally to our vital needs and are related to one organ of human body at least. So there is a special relation with part of our body. For example, eating and drinking are desired by all human beings. And this is an answer to our natural needs. And it's also related to our, organ for digestion. So, when we eat, we enjoy first the taste and then we enjoy being free from the pain of hunger, etc. Or sexual instinct is for continuity of humanity and is also related to a special part of the body. So this is ghara'is. Second is awatif. Awatif sometimes is translated as emotions, but here I think he means by awatif mostly affections, because in Farsi awatif can be also affections. He says awatif are related to relations with other people. So these are desires that are engaged with other people. For example, the affection between parents and children, or vice versa, or different types of affections we may have with respect to other people. And he says, when the social relations, interpersonal relations become more, the power of affections become also more. Whether it's through natural things or spiritual things. For example, parents and children, their relation is very powerful because in addition to the relation with other people, it has some tabi'i, some natural aspect, because children come from parents. There's a biological relation, there's also genetic relation. This is more than, for example, me and someone on the street, or even a friend. Unless there are stronger relations, for example, because that person is a very good person, maybe you have great affection, even more than your brother. But just being a father or a child and being another person, you can see the difference. Or if the relation is spiritual, it becomes again strong, like between teacher and student. He says this relation has a spiritual backup, so it becomes powerful. So the first type of desires is ghara'is, instincts. Second, awatif, affections. Third, infa'alat. And he means by infa'alat here negative inclinations. And he says this is opposite to awatif. So again, it is about relation with other people. So it's not just yourself. But when you feel bad, either you feel you are being harmed, or there's danger, or something is unpleasant, you want to go away or run away, there is a kind of dislike, hatred, things like these. This is the third type. The fourth type he calls ihsasat. Ihsas here doesn't mean senses. Ihsas means like feelings. Of course, all these terms in philosophy have very exact meanings, and some of them even from a philosopher to another philosopher can be different. So sometimes what we mean by emotions or sentiments or passion or experiences, these are very similar terms, but you have to be very careful about the context that they are used. So when I was doing my PhD, this was one of the issues that I had to be very careful. Even emotivists themselves, they have different sometimes usage of the terms. But here he means by ihsasat something which is stronger than the previous ones, and it's only for human beings. غرائز, عواطف, and انفعالات can be found in human beings and animals too. But إحساسات are only for human beings. Like إحساس تعجب. When you are, surprised or astonished, when you wonder, they say one reason that human beings laugh is because they become متعجب. Al-insanu zahik. They say zahik is exclusive to human beings. Why? Because ta'ajjub is a requirement of dhik, and it's exclusive to human beings. Of course, these examples are for the sake of ta'aleem, training, teaching. Otherwise, maybe you can find some mammals or some types of animals that they also laugh in this way that we laugh. Means, for example, they can make humorous gestures, and things like this. Maybe there is no burhan that is impossible, but as much as possible, you see, at least even if they have it, it's very basic level. They don't have comedians or jokers, etc. إحساس تعجب or إحساس استحسان, when you find something good and you are amazed with that. Or إحساس تجلیل, when you feel awe towards something because of its greatness or glory. Or إحساس عشق, when there is overwhelming love. Or إحساس پرستش, sense of worship in human beings. This is not available, as much as we know, in animals. خب, these are one way of classification of these desires. Then sometimes these desires can be mixed. You remember in the moral philosophy course from my book, I explained for you the way I classified 3 types of desires. Material, physical desires, semi-abstract, and abstract. These are 3 types. And one of the things we had over there was this idea of combination of desires and conflict of desires and prioritizing. So these are here as well, but in different way. These internal inclinations and desires, sometimes they have impact on each other, they interact, they support, or maybe they weaken each other. And also sometimes they interact with our understanding and the faculties for understanding. He says, for example, the instinct that we have for eating and drinking becomes sometimes very complicated or very sophisticated. We are not like animals that, for example, when there is, for example, for the cow, if there is grass, the cow is going to eat and enjoy. But human beings would like to have their food with a special taste, smell, flavor, the containers in which the food is served, the table, if there is a candle, if there is a flower, with whom you eat. All these things get mixed with simple desire for eating. The same with social relations, etc. So our desires can be mixed and combined, and sometimes they can become very powerful. Or conflict between desires. Normally desires have their own kind of territory. For example, desire for eating is about things which can be eaten. Desire for clothes, for shelter, for home, each have their own realm or territory. Emotions are about, our affections are about, relation with other human beings. Therefore, they don't come to our relation with animals, etc. But sometimes more than one desire is triggered or active, and they all want response. And maybe we cannot satisfy all of them. We need to prioritize. So there's maybe conflict. So we have to decide which one is more important. And this is where choice becomes possible and at the same time necessary. If you have desire for only one thing, choice doesn't mean anything. At least must be between desire, I have desire for doing and I have desire for not doing. If I have just desire for one side, then I am not going to choose anything. Choice means there must be attraction in more than one side, and then you choose one of them. So you have to sacrifice maybe part of your desires for the sake of satisfying others. One of the things that helps a lot here when you want to choose something over another thing is your knowledge. You have to use your aql, and aql is knowledge, to be able to prioritize what is better for you. If you don't use your aql and you just maybe go by habits, like for example, if someone is addicted to certain drug or smoking, so maybe they have desire for also not smoking, but because of the habit, because of addiction, it's very difficult for them to resist. But if they use their aql, if they have more ma'rifah, more knowledge about the harm of this, etc., maybe they can mobilize their power and energy to refrain from this. So he says, expressions like conflict between aql and nafs, between intellect and soul, refer to this problem. That sometimes aql understand that something is better and is leading towards our happiness, but some other factors may stop us. This leads to a very important question in moral philosophy, that if human beings want their happiness, why sometimes they go against their aql? They go against science. They know that this is harmful, but still they do it. Philosophers have different answers. Socrates and Plato. Socrates is very well known for this. So they had the idea that ma'rifah is the mother of all virtues, ummul fada'il, and ignorance is ummul shurur. So the only reason that someone may do something bad is not having knowledge. But then Aristotle used to say sometimes people know something is bad and they can't do it. So Aristotle was saying that it's more complicated. But then some people on behalf of Socrates and people like him, they say that it depends on the level of the knowledge, strength of knowledge. These people who know something is bad and still they do it, their knowledge is not very strong. If knowledge reaches the point of like shuhud, if it's very strong knowledge, as if you are witnessing intuitively, then that's different. So there is discussion in modern moral philosophy that discuss this under the topic of moral weakness. Why there is such a thing as moral weakness and how we can overcome this. It's very obvious that Qur'an is not a book of psychology or philosophy or philosophical psychology, ilm al-nafs al-falsafi. Quran is a book for insan sazi, for our self-building and improving social relations. Therefore, Quran is not expected to refer to all these things in details, but we can understand the principles from the Quran. One of the things that the Quran, pays attention to is how to prefer some desires over others, or prioritize some over other, or to pay attention to our weaknesses, and that if we don't take care of ourselves, if we don't purify ourselves, we have to wait for very bad consequences. قد خاب من دساها قد أفلح من ذكاها وقد خاب من دساها. So Quran wants to awaken in us aql and transcendent desires, so that we don't go just for food and eating and etc. And if there is problem in our aql understanding all the relevant factors, then wahy is also there to help us. One of the things that we find in the Quran is that some desires are very mean, lower desires, and Quran discourages us and urges us not to go after them. In Surah Al-Ma'arij, verse 19, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ خُلِقَ هَلُوعًا إِذَا مَسَّهُ الشَّرُّ جَزُوعًا وَإِذَا مَسَّهُ الْخَيْرُ مَنُوعًا. Then Allah says, إِلَّا الْمُصَلِّينَ. So this impatience is there in human beings, and we have to be careful. So it's a warning to protect yourself against it. If we go after our whims, we cannot achieve those high virtues which are available for human beings. And he says this is available in all divine religions and all proper schools of akhlaq. They know that there must be self-control, there must be self-disciplining. You cannot do everything that you like. He refers to the verses about nature of dunya, this worldly life. For example, Surah Al-Hadid, verse 20. اعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب ولهو وزينة وتفاخر بينكم وتكاثر في الأموال والأولاد. So Quran is trying to educate us so that we don't just go by our desires, and normally desires which are very strong, very they are very urging, but might be not very deep. When you are hungry, you feel it very strong way. But when you have desire for learning, it's much better, much deeper, much more human, but it may not have that instant pressure that if you are hungry, you feel. When you're hungry for knowledge, for most of people, the urgency is not like when you are hungry for food. Therefore, we need to be, educating ourselves. One of the desires in human beings is what he calls shakhsiyat talabi. He says this is higher than animal desires that we share with animals. Normally, in social life, this issue comes that human beings want to be independent, distinct, respected, have a special social position. This many times happen in teenagers and the youths, because before that they are very much following their parents, teachers, etc. Now, in order to have independent life, their desires change. Sometimes it goes actually to the extreme. They don't want to accept anything from others. even for example from parents, they don't want to accept anything. But this in itself is good, in principle is good. Unfortunately, sometimes goes out of control, goes to the extreme. But it is good to try to understand things by yourself, try to make your decision by yourself. But if you do it rationally, you would consult your parents, you would consult people who have experiences. If you don't do it rationally, just you want to just be alone and making your decisions as you like. Even if someone wants to do something, when others say do it, they say no, I don't want to do this. There's desire for being independent. So he says shakhsiyat talabi, you are in favor of having some kind of personality which is respected. This is something which is naturally available in human beings, and normally the first manifestation are in teenage. When someone then goes higher and becomes like middle age, etc., then this can become riyasat talabi. They want to become leaders, they want to have power, they want people to listen to them. And this can come with different forms. Shohrat talabi, seeking fame. Riyasat talabi, seeking leadership. Jah talabi, you want to be in society very respected and highly regarded. Things like this. But also Qur'an says there is a way to get this respect in a nice way, in an ethical way. Man kana yuridu al-izzah فَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ جَمِيعًا. Surah Fatir, verse 10, Allah says, if someone wants izzah, dignity, the way is not to bribe or I don't know, ask people to do publicity for you, etc. The way is to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Man kana yuridu al-izzah فَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ جَمِيعًا. If someone wants izzah and honor, dignity, all belongs to Allah. There is no other supplier. So, seeking honor and dignity in itself is not bad. Seeking a reputation, good reputation, is not in itself bad. These are good things in human beings that lead towards perfection. But we have to understand what is real izzah and how we can get it. Or desire for continuity, desire for survival, for eternity. This is also in human beings. But you have to understand this cannot be achieved in dunya. Quran says that about some Bani Israel in Surah Baqarah verse 96, يَوَدُّ أَحَدُهُمْ لَوْ يُعَمَّرُ أَلْفَ سَنَةٍ. This desire for continuing is mistakenly brought to dunya, and they want to live in this world 1,000 years. This is not possible. Or Iblis said to Prophet Adam alayhi salam, Surah Taha verse 120, هل أدلك على شجرة الخلد وملك لا يبلى. He knew that Adam as a human being has desire for khuld, for eternity, and for power, mulkin la yabla, a kingdom which is not going to perish. He used it to persuade Adam that he should eat from that prohibited tree. So these are desires in human beings. Desire for eternity, desire for power, and they are not bad in themselves. Just with ma'rifah, with aql, we need to regulate them and use them in the right place, not in the wrong place. If you want eternity, it's not in dunya, it's in akhirah. And it's not by doing bad things, it's by doing good things. Surah A'la verse 17, وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. It shows that Quran is telling if you want to be in a place or in kind of life that is more enduring, Akhirah is the one. And then it says, finally, the ultimate desire, which is very deep in human beings, is about God, which is our yearning for God. And he says, unfortunately, even some psychologists have not understood this. Some have understood, but some have not understood. He says this is not like ihsas. It's not like awatif. That's the fourth and the second types of desire we discussed before. This is something about our perfection that you need to activate it and flourish it by yourself. You know, desire for food, for drink, for opposite sex, etc. They come. Desire for, you know, honor, fame, power. They come themselves. At certain age, certain time, sooner or later. But spiritual desires, and especially desire for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may not come automatically. They may come, but they may also not come. There's no guarantee. Normally for such things you have to make efforts. It's not that every human being becomes thirsty for ibadah as they become thirsty for water. The ground is there, but if you don't act in a way which is suitable, you may not let this desire flourish in you. And then after also you develop this desire, you have to understand how to satisfy it in the proper way. You love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you love whatever belongs to Him, like Iman. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ حَبَّبَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْإِيمَانِ. Allah made Iman lovable, dear to you. Surah Hujurat verse 7. And you can reach the point that you don't want anything except pleasure of Allah. Surah Layl number 20. إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ وَجْهِ رَبِّهِ الْأَعْلَى. Seeking face of God. خب, Alhamdulillah, we finished this part, the third element in exercising free will. Now, inshallah, in the next session, we will talk about the criteria for making your decisions and, you know, for exercising your free will. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.